Let's dive into this. The ultimate starting point for our whole investigation today boils down to one simple question. How much are investors actually willing to pay for one single dollar of revenue? Think about it. When you buy a stock, you're buying a living, breathing slice of a business. And before that business can generate a single dime of profit, it has to generate revenue. This question right here, it sits at the absolute heart of the price to sales, or P/S ratio.
So here's our game plan. We'll start by decoding the top line. Then we'll walk through calculating the PS ratio. After that, we'll compare trailing versus forward sales, jump into the core valuation workflow, and finally wrap up with knowing the limitations.
All right, part 1, decoding the top line, finding the first clue. Let's get into it. Here's the thing. Not every company has clean, easy-to-read profits, right? But every single operating company has a top line. They all have revenue that we can analyze. So our primary investigative tool today is the price-to-sales ratio. Simply put, it's a valuation multiple that compares a company's total market capitalization to its annual revenue. Why is this a real game changer? Well, because sales exist even when earnings are totally negative, or maybe they're distorted by some temporary one-off event. That makes the PS ratio incredibly useful, absolutely crucial really, for evaluating younger startups, highly cyclical industries, or businesses going through massive restructuring. In those cases, the earnings per share just doesn't tell you the whole story about the company's market traction.
Moving on to part 2, calculating the PS ratio, the math behind the metric. Now, I want to slow our pace just a tiny bit here because getting this fundamental math right is essential. There are basically 2 ways you can calculate this metric. You've got the per share method, where you divide the current share price by the sales per share. Or you can use the company level method, where you take the total market capitalization and divide it by the total revenue. And this brilliantly illustrates a key point. In theory, both of these calculations match perfectly. But in the real world, slight variations in how shares are counted can create tiny little discrepancies. So the golden rule here? Pick one method and just stay consistent with your inputs.
Let's actually walk through a quick, concrete example. We'll use a hypothetical look at a company like Microsoft. Imagine they have $800 million in trailing 12-month sales and 200 million shares outstanding. If we divide that $800 million by 200 million shares, we get $4 of sales per share, right? Now, if the stock is currently trading at $20 a share, we just divide that 20 by the $4 in sales per share, and boom, that gives us a PS ratio of exactly 5.0. It's clean, it's simple, and it immediately tells us the market is paying $5 for every $1 of top-line revenue.
Okay, part 3, trailing versus forward sales, the time context. So, the exact metric we just calculated? It can change entirely based on the timeline we're looking at. When we talk about PS, we have to know when those sales actually occurred. The default view you'll usually see is TTM, or trailing 12 months. That uses sales from the last 4 reported quarters, which is great because it grounds our discussion in cold, hard, historical facts. But the drawback? It can severely lag behind reality if the business is suddenly accelerating. That's where forward PS comes in. Forward PS uses projected revenue for the next year. It reflects expected momentum, which is awesome. But remember, forecasts always carry the risk of human error and bias.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer financial culture shock between different sectors. Just look at these valuation ranges over the last decade. A capital-light, high-margin sector like technology routinely supports multiple valuations between 1.8 and 5.1 times sales. Meanwhile, an asset-heavy, lower-margin sector like energy, it sits way down between 0.4 and 2.3. You literally cannot compare a software company's multiple to an oil refinery's multiple. It doesn't work. Context and industry norms totally shape what a given ratio actually means.
Which brings us to the main event, part 4, the core valuation workflow, putting it into practice.
This is where we bring it all together. Our main focus today is to demonstrate the core workflow steps, the exact step-by-step procedure to use this metric like a professional financial detective. Step 1. Start with TTM to ground yourself in total objectivity. Ask yourself, what have they actually proven they can sell? Step 2. Layer in forward expectations to see if those sales are accelerating or shrinking. Step 3. Compare within the industry. As we just saw, comparing a tech giant to an energy firm is useless. You gotta keep your peers close. And finally, step 4. Cross-check with margins and enterprise value to see how efficiently those top-line sales actually translate into bottom-line value.
I absolutely love this quote from our source material. PS helps locate the debate, Margins, cash flow, and capital structure help resolve it. The price-to-sales ratio is really just your starting lens. It quickly surfaces where the market is being overly optimistic or maybe overly cautious. But as an investor, you have to dig deeper. You have to ask yourself if the company's growth and their profit margins actually justify paying a premium multiple.
Finally, Part 5, knowing the limitations, identifying red herrings.
To be completely objective in our analysis, we absolutely must acknowledge the blind spots of the PS ratio. So the crucial point is this: not all revenue dollars are created equal. Let's fire through these dangers quickly. First, PS has no profit lens. A cheap PS is a total value trap if the margins are bleeding cash. Second, cross-industry comparability is super weak. Third, it completely omits leverage, meaning it ignores whether a company has a mountain of debt or billions in cash. And fourth, the quality of sales matters. A one-off multi-million-dollar contract might inflate sales this year, but it doesn't create durable long-term value.
Thankfully, we have complementary metrics to solve these exact limitations. If you're worried about debt, you just swap out market cap for enterprise value, giving you the EV to sales ratio, which factors in all that leverage. And to solve the profit problem, you always pair your PS analysis with margins and free cash flow. This is how you take a simple price of sales snapshot and convert it into a deep, meaningful understanding of the actual economics of the business.
I want to leave you with one final, provocative thought today. If two companies have the exact same price-to-sales ratio, but vastly different margins, which one are you really buying? One is efficiently turning that revenue into cold, hard cash, while the other might be burning through it just to keep the lights on. The PS ratio gets you to the right neighborhood for sure, but it's up to you to knock on the door and inspect the foundation. Thanks for joining me for this explainer. Keep investigating, keep analyzing, and we'll see you next time. Let's